The NBA is in a weird space. You're seeing old legacy players like LeBron James and Kevin Durant, also Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. They're starting to become extinct. They're going out. But not only are they going out, the entire model of Big Three basketball seems to be a thing from the past. Like I said at the beginning of the video, we're in a very weird space where talent is colliding with character and team need. Today, on this episode of the Litcast, the first episode of the NBA Litcast, I'm joined by my brother Sean White. And we're going to talk about two teams today that seem to be on parallel collision courses when it comes to team building. The first team we're going to talk about today is the Charlotte Hornets. We're going to talk a little bit about the history of the Charlotte Hornets, where they came from, where they've been, and where we think they're going now. Sean White is a brother from Pineville, North Carolina that's been a lifelong Charlotte Hornets fan. The wonderful video that you're seeing on YouTube that all of you guys have been supporting, and we both thank you for that, he's narrating on it. I wanted to bring him in tonight because I wanted to get a feel for what the Hornet fan base feels seeing the great jump that they just took in Summer League coming from the days of George Shen. Sean White, man, welcome to the show, brother. Well, I can't welcome you. You're the co-head host. How do you feel to be on
Well,
our first episode, brother?
man, I still appreciate the welcome, bro. And it feels great. You know what I mean? Just seeing the reception that everybody has been having for the video and things like that. And being able to just talk about the Hornets in a different space. It's dope, man. So I'm glad to be here.
Glad to have you on, man. Let's start back about 30 to 40 years ago. The Charlotte Hornets get this team, highest in attendance in the league, exciting, fast pace. They're able to get Alonzo Mourning. They're able to get Larry Johnson. They already had Muggsy Bogues. The big three of the birth of the Charlotte Hornets era. Can you talk a little bit about how exciting it was to have a team in your city and a team as exciting and as colorful as the Charlotte Hornets all the way back then?
Oh, man. You talking about lit. The Hornets had the city on fire, man. I can just remember going out to eat sometimes with my mom at like the local Red Lobster over in Pineville and seeing a lot of the Hornets there. And they were always so approachable, would speak to people like they were cool, they were down to earth. And I think that's what the city loved so much about the team. You know what I mean? Is that they were dope and just chill and down to earth. And that's how Charlotte was because it's not no huge major city and stuff like that. But you have your people who go to work and they do this and they do that. So that was dope. I mean, of course, you mentioned it, brother. Colorways, like the just anything that you could wear, from the starter jackets to the jerseys. Like people love. You couldn't go around town without seeing somebody in Hornets gear. You know what I'm saying? So the city was just lit at the time, and everybody was for 'em, for sure.
Lose a, I like to call a competitive series to
Mm.
the Michael Jordan Bulls. BJ Armstrong, a former Chicago Bull, was a part of that team, but you guys made Jordan and the great Bulls compete. And it seemed like after that moment where you lost in the second round of the playoffs that year, everything came crashing down. Let's talk a little bit about some of the moves that George Shen made by letting Larry Johnson walk, letting Alonzo Mourning walk, and some of the politics that took place off of the court and the bad taste it left in the fans' mouth.
Oh, for sure, bro. I feel like, see, some people have like revisionist history because I be seeing in the comments people being like, "Well, they weren't gonna resign with Charlotte anyway," and it's like, nah, you got them messed up. Like they've spoken about in interviews how they felt like they weren't owed the respect that they deserved, and that's why they moved on. George Shen was more so like a type of my way or the highway type guy for whatever reason. And I have no clue because, like you said, man, even if you are a selfish owner, business was booming. Why wouldn't you want to keep the players there that have business booming and the arena packed out and all of that. So it was just a lot of his pride that got in the way of resigning that talent that they already had. And just things with trying to make it, a business, like wanting a new arena and saying that, oh, the fans got to pay so much of this. And Charlotte just wasn't on that. So I just feel like it was his stubbornness as an owner, and then just him not being professional. You know what I mean? I mentioned some of the things in the video as well. And just all of those things, man, was just a recipe for their demise.
Mm. From team of the people to leaving the city of Charlotte. Let's talk a little bit about the transition and the feelings of the Hornets leaving and coming back, which is to me my favorite part on the entire video. Y'all, please make sure y'all go check out our YouTube channel right now and check out that documentary. It's a hell of a mini documentary. But my favorite part on the video is when you say the Charlotte Bobcats from their inception were some kind of weird, sick, twisted science experiment. Can you talk about the initial reaction to the Hornets leaving the city and then coming back resurrected as Frankenstein that is the Charlotte Bobcats?
So, man, to be honest, like we had such a huge relationship, all of the like Charlotte public schools at the time with the Hornets. Like we would have like pizza parties and then get tickets to a game for free, and school buses was pulling up just to the actual games. But when George Shin and all of those issues started flowing, like people wanted to veer themselves away. You know what I mean? They didn't love the Hornets or him, and they wanted to stay away. So attendance was really down. Like I can recall putting on the news at time at night, or me and my mom watching the news and just seeing the Hornets play, and the arena is like empty. Like I'm telling you, like maybe 200, 300 people in there, if that, compared to, an arena that holds anywhere from 13, 14,000 plus. So it was just sad, man. A lot of people's hearts were broken. And then it got even more broken when they said they were moving to the Hornets to New Orleans. Because a lot of us had the feeling like, yo, can Shin sell the team? Can something else happen? Because we just need something to change, but not that change. So I remember that part. And then of course I mentioned the Charlotte Coliseum. Like they talked about they was gonna blow it up, dynamite all in it. And then it was gonna be, something else, like another part of town and build office spaces. And so it was just like, bro, like, what is this? So at a certain point, our hearts were broken and we just felt like the Hornets were a distant memory. But like I say, like the Bobcats is like that ex-girlfriend that moves to another city and y'all just decide y'all can't make it work and y'all move on, and then all of a sudden she wants to pop back in your life and you like, okay, let's give it a try. And then when you see exactly why she left in the first place, this is why y'all can't be together. And that's what the Bobcats was. They never had their true own like identity, the real talent. I said they were a science experiment because nothing made sense. The colorways, the way they were introduced, there was no culture. I didn't really see them out there like that in the city. And it seemed like a lot of the players, no disrespect to them because they were dogs, but it seemed like a lot of individuals who were, I'm not going to say kicked off of teams, but it just looked like they were not supposed to be like in a starting lineup or even like a six man, like the really like giveaways or trying to rebuild their careers. And that's just what the franchise seemed like the whole time.
They did always feel like the Suicide Squad of the NBA. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
The expendables, the forgottens, but they were a hard playing team. And I think that Bobcats dynamic is very
Mhm.
interesting in the conversation that we're having today about this weird thing that's happening in the NBA where they're not leaning into stars so much anymore. You got one or two stars on the team. Like you see with OKC, they got Jay Williams and they got Shea Gilchrist Alexander. Some people say
They
Chet
use that word star loosely, by the way.
loosely,
Like we
right? It's very loose.
loosely,
But the majority of
sure.
the team, especially with the way the new CBA is, the majority of the
Mhm.
team is built with role players. And one thing I can say about the Bobcats, and just echoing what you said, it was a team full of hard-working role players that if you would have put stars around them, I think the Bobcats really could have worked. They actually did make the playoffs, but it seemed like
Mhm.
Bob Johnson, the owner at the time, had a cap on how much money he was willing to spend. and he just wasn't as invested. From Bob Johnson to Michael Jeffrey Jordan, in comes the greatest Carolinian of all time, arguably, when it comes to sports. If I'm not mistaken, I think Lawrence Taylor's from North Carolina as well. Um,
Mhm.
with that being said, what is the feelings and emotions when you guys see that the team has been sold to Michael Jeffrey Jordan?
Man, you talking about excited? Like a lot of me and my partners threw a party because being from the Carolinas, bro, it doesn't matter North Carolina, South Carolina, it's all the same thing. We don't have a lot of big stars or people to even claim the Carolinas like that. So MJ, despite him going to Chicago and building his legacy there, we were just excited because North Carolina still claims him as ours. So we felt like, yo, the losing is over with. He gonna come through. He gonna revamp this whole thing. We gonna be good to go, man. Like MJ as our owner, and at the time, I don't even know if any players were doing anything in ownership like that. So it was just a whole different type of vibe to it as well, especially a star as big as Mike. So we thinking, man, this finna be a dream until it was a nightmare. You dig? So that's how he was.
Down tenure as an owner. He did put on the court a few times a playoff team with Kimball Walker and Jefferson. This transition where Michael Jordan goes from seeming like a serious contender for 3 years straight with Kimball Walker to almost becoming disenfranchised with the franchise during COVID to drafting this wild card out of Chino Hills, LaMelo Ball. That had to be a whole world spin because I heard like during that COVID season and the year before when Kimba left, that fans were actually giving away their tickets. So to go from a situation where you got a Kimball Walker and now Michael is taking this wild card out of Chino and LaMelo Ball, what was the reaction from the fans to taking a LaMelo Ball, number 3 overall in that 2020 draft?
I mean, it was tough, bro, because the city as a whole really loved Kimba. You know what I mean? And the fact that they didn't even work out a deal was crazy to everyone because we were wondering, like, you're not going to make a trade, you're not going to do anything for him, you're just going to walk. And that's why I say some fans have revisionist history because they like, well, no, his knees was done. And we're like, wait a minute, huh? Like he was still able to cook even after he left Charlotte. So, but that's beside the point. A lot of us felt like we had nothing to lose because at that point we didn't really have an identity or a leader or main talent that could just cook like that. So everybody knows, what I'm saying, LaMelo from Ball in the family and everything going on with the family and all that. So it's not like we were against it or necessarily for it. It was just like we in wait and see mode. That's all. That's all how.
I mean, you've given us some of your mindset around this booming documentary that's going crazy right now on the Charlotte Hornets and where they've been and where they're at now. I'll leave it up to you to introduce it, man. This is Sean White, the voice, the main voice of this documentary that you can catch right here on the Lit House today. So make sure you pull up. Sean, take it away, man.
Yeah, man. I want everybody else to check this doc out, man. I feel like I am the true voice of the 704 and just kick Flav and rep the city as a whole. And I think people who've had so many questions about the Charlotte Hornets, from the ownership to the roster to a lot of the moves that's been made throughout the years, will gain knowledge from watching this doc, man. So lock in, get your popcorn ready, man. Pour yourself up a good drink and check it out because it's a good one. Today, I want to talk about a team that holds a special place in the hearts of many Carolinians, such as myself, but also breaks their hearts over and over and over again. Have you guessed it yet? The team is the Charlotte Hornets. Now, if you're from North Carolina, or even just a casual NBA fan, you've probably asked the same question I have over the years. What happened to the Hornets? How did a team with such a strong fan base, a unique brand, and one of the most iconic players as an owner become one of the most disappointing franchises and hilarious franchises in the league. From ownership fumbles to identity crisis, let's get into it. I want to talk about the George Shinn era. In 1988, y'all know we got our first team, my first NBA team, the original Hornets. And man, when I tell you, they were loved. The city was on fire, man. They brought a certain type of energy, style, and the teal and purple color scheme, man. It had the whole NBA paying attention. Like, the drip was so hard, folk who didn't even stay in Charlotte was getting their merch because it was just that drippy, man. They loved the colors, like the Hornets. It was just unique, you know what I'm saying? The Charlotte Coliseum where they played was so lit. It stayed sold out, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't just a basketball, it was a cultural moment. And I'm not sure if y'all saw the movie Joanna Man, but it was filmed at the Charlotte Coliseum. You see what I'm saying? So I don't know if y'all know about that type of history, man, but it was just lit like that. Like, they had the city on fire. They had something when they got Muggsy Bogues, Larry Johnson, and Alonzo Mourning, right? The Hornets weren't just entertaining, man. They were trying to build something real. But business got in the way of that. So the original owner, like I said, George Shinn, went from a local hero to one of the most disliked figures in Charlotte sports history. I mean, like, on the surface, like, he had some questionable front office decisions, but like, he really pushed fans away with like his, off the court scandals and how he just handled the community. Like, people just stopped really trusting him because it's just like, bro, you supposed to be doing right by the team and building a contender, but he was doing everything but that. It was all types of allegations and lawsuits and all types of stuff that he had going on. And then when it came to as dope as the city was and riding with him, this man would not build a new arena unless he had public money. Ain't that crazy? Just because the fans wouldn't chip in, which Charlotte wasn't like the mecca for like money or anything like that. It was still a growing city. He was like, you know what? Cool. All these allegations, man, lawsuits, and y'all don't want to build no new arena with y'all money. Not his money, y'all money, I'm out. In 2002, man, he decided to just move the New Orleans, to move the team to New Orleans. And the thing was, bro, those players that I named, Muggsy was one who stayed, but Larry Johnson, Alonzo Mourning, just off of some BS, he didn't even re-sign them. He let them walk. And y'all know how cold Larry Johnson and Alonzo Mourning was. They was like staples with the Hornets. Because fans stopped trusting, they stopped showing up to the arena. So there was just nothing but like poor market support, you know what I mean? And because of his ego and scandal, he just lost all respect and said, all right, let me go ahead and move the team to New Orleans, man. And that was literally the first fracture that just tore the Hornets up, and the city was never really the same. The second chapter is what I like to call the Bobcats era that I want to talk about. So let's fast forward to about 2004. Right around 2004, I'm like in elementary, okay? So the NBA decided they wanted to bring the team back to Charlotte. But it wasn't the Hornets. Nope. We got the Charlotte Bobcats. Now look, I get it. It was a fresh start, but from the jump, the Bobcats felt like some type of weird science experiment. You know what I mean? Like, the name didn't resonate, the branding felt forced, and worst of all, the product on the court was so uninspiring. Now, I'm not sure if y'all necessarily know who owned them at that time, but that would be Bob Johnson. Bob Johnson literally was like the owner of BET. So he had like so much motion going on, but he wasn't really involved in sports like that. So anybody that he had in charge, including himself, just didn't know what to do. And so early on, the Bobcats never truly had like a face of the franchise. I'm talking about they done sat up here and drafted players who never lived up to the hype, like Adam Morrison. I know y'all remember Adam Morrison, the one who went to Gonzaga. He was picked like 3rd overall in 06, man, ahead of players like Brandon Roy, Rudy Gay. And I ain't trying to knock, you know what I'm saying, Adam Morrison, but it's just like, it just showed how lost the front office was. You know what I'm saying? It was just bad, man. And even like the trades that they made, like it just seemed like desperate move after desperate move after desperate move, just trying to be relevant, man, instead of actually building something that was sustainable. All right. Now, I think they made the playoffs maybe one time in like 2010, and they got swept. I mean, like really, really swept. Like it wasn't close. The patience was just gone, man. There was no spirit like folk had for the Hornets. There was no drip, them orange jerseys. It just was not it. And let's go ahead and take it over to chapter 3, which is what I like to call the Michael Jordan era. You know, the GOAT, but the fraud in the front office, as I like to call him. Let's talk about the man who was supposed to change everything. When Bob Johnson, right, decided he was going to start selling stuff from BET to the Bobcats, he didn't want to be involved no more, he decided to sell him to Michael Jordan. Now, this was around 2010, and it was supposed to be the rebirth. Now, everybody knows how Michael Jordan is the GOAT of the NBA and all of these different things, but he's just different to people in North Carolina because, of course, you know, he was a Tar Heel and grew up and everything in North Carolina. So it's just like, yo, the greatest player of all time is about to be running the Hornets in his home state? Bruh, this finna be a movie. But instead of it being an action-packed movie, it turned into a horror movie real fast, okay? But here's the truth. Michael Jordan, the player, and Michael Jordan, the executive, are two very different people. I'm saying this man made mistake after mistake after mistake, especially in the draft. Bismack Biyombo, bro, you talking about sick? That's who you chose? So 2012, we had these different players. I'm like, all right, bro, this is the one. We missed with Biyombo, but we can't miss again. And who does this man draft? Michael Kidd Gilchrist at number 2, bro. Over Damian Lillard. I could not believe it. I'm just like, bro, what are you thinking? 2013, he skipped over Giannis. The only thing that I could think about is Kemba Walker was going just off from MJ's tenure, man. Like, never advanced past the first round, you know what I'm saying? Never really had consistency. But, and then the thing is, when he was due for a contract, Mike ain't give him no supermax. They just let him walk. We ain't get nothing in return. Wasn't no trade, wasn't no nothing. So, MJ's legacy as a player, untouchable. But his ownership of the Hornets, man, is one of the major reasons the team has struggled for decades. And that's why I say he ain't the GOAT. He the frog of the front office, because all he did was hop around, but never did what he was supposed to do. And with that, I'm going to send it over to my man Reb to take it.
Nothing could prepare Charlotte for what was coming next. A wild card, 6'7" guard, polarized, from Chino Hills, LaMelo Ball, was on the Charlotte Hornets radar in the 2020 draft. No one would have thought just 2 years prior, with a public feud between LeVar Ball and Michael Jordan, this was anything possible. The Big Baller brand burst onto the scene back in 2017. The story of 3 brothers and their father grinding from nothing out of the West Coast and taking over high school AAU circuits all across America. And when they went to Lithuania, the world, was something out of a storybook. It sounded like it was written in the script of a Slam magazine. Now, the youngest of all 3 of the Ball brothers, LaMelo, had an opportunity to be drafted by the Charlotte Hornets. Needless to say, draft night 2020 When the Minnesota Timberwolves took Anthony Edwards and the Golden State Warriors took James Wiseman, respectively, it was Charlotte's turn to make a decision. And as critical as I have been of the Charlotte Hornets and some of their decisions, I gotta take my hat off to Michael Jordan and Mitch Kupchak for silencing the noise and taking the best talent available. Although LaMelo was a polarizing figure at the time, what he did in Australia, what he did in his high school career at 6'7" now, bringing a guy like that into the franchise, not only could give the city something to look forward to on the court, but it could give them a superstar, the first superstar since Cam Newton, to really change the way the sports is being viewed and played in Charlotte. When LaMelo finally made it into the building, there were many reports that came out that a lot of the media and reality TV show narratives that were behind LaMelo Ball were inaccurate and not correct. Mitch Kupchak and head coach at the time, James Borrego, both went on record saying that they met with LaMelo the night that he got drafted, well, the next night when he came in. And the first thing that LaMelo asked him was, where was the gym? Even though LaMelo had all the prospect talent that you want from a number one talent or a number two talent, he didn't hit the ground running. During that preseason that year, he struggled. And the first game of the year against the Cleveland Cavaliers in Cleveland, his first outing was a donut hole with some of the bad thoughts around the Ball family and some of the sour taste that was left in NBA fans' mouth from Lonzo's first go-around in LA. A lot of fans were already chalking it up to LaMelo potentially being a bust. By game 3, that had all changed. From game 3 to game 20, LaMelo was on a trajectory that led him to the Rookie of the Year, and if he would have stayed healthy in the middle of that rookie season, he would have had a better rookie season than Luka Doncic per statistics. You would think, after this early success in a young career, of a Rookie of the Year, his first year, a play-in, an all-star appearance, his second year, a play-in, you would think that LaMelo's young trajectory would be that of an all-star perennially, an all-NBA career perennially, and a future Hall of Fame. But something happened in the midst of that. Something derailed all of those plans and hopes that the Charlotte Hornets had at the time. Injuries. Not only was it injuries, the front office unwillingness to put the necessary pieces around LaMelo. Ever since LaMelo made it to Charlotte, he was surrounded by the forgottens of the NBA. The biggest free agent acquisition as he came in was a Gordon Hayward, who had not made an all-star in 7 years. And since a tragic injury in Boston that happened earlier, was never really the same after his leg injury. Because of money being bogged down in bad contracts that no one else was offering in the NBA, it seemed like the Charlotte Hornets were content on a play-in appearance or a rebuild year after year. Year after year, the promise of what LaMelo could be started to sound like what he would never be. It was a sad state of affairs in Charlotte. 2 years ago, Michael Jordan sells the team. When he sells the team, it was the end of an era that was marred in what could have been. But it also showed a glimpse of hope. A 6'9" sniper, shooting guard out of Alabama, by way of Antioch, Tennessee, Brandon Miller, stood to be the best teammate drafted that could help LaMelo carry some of the load and get over the hump. The first move that the new owners that bought the team from Michael Jordan, Gabe Plotkin and Rick Schnell, did when coming into the building was draft Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller showed great promise his rookie year. He showed that he was a lot more athletic than a lot of scouts gave him credit for. He also showed that his three-point shot was translatable on the NBA level, but he too fell marred by the tragedy of Charlotte, which is injury. The once high-flying Miles Bridges, who in LaMelo's second year really came into his own and looked like, at times, the best player on the team and a borderline all-star, also succumbed to things that kept him off of the court. Now, in this new regime, under new leadership at head coach Charles Lee and vice president of operations Jeff Peterson, we're finally starting to see the glimpse of the vision that the Charlotte Hornets say they want to build. This year, after what many consider to be a whiff on last year's lottery pick and Tijan Salon at number 6 overall, the Charlotte Hornets made a conscientious decision not to draft at number 4 in the lottery, the best player available, but to go for something they're describing as culture and character. Canipo, a 6'5" shooting guard out of Duke, who was the second man behind number 1 draft pick Cooper Flagg of Duke, is said to be a guy that's ready to go right now, with a lower ceiling, but what they describe as a high floor. The Charlotte Hornets are hoping that Canipo's maturity and, quote, character can be enough to insert one day in between LaMelo and Brandon Miller in the starting lineup as an even keel piece that glues everything together. The Charlotte Hornets weren't done with the character and the player readiness and development when they drafted or traded further into the first round to take Liam McKinley out of UConn, a 6'7" small forward that was once rated the number 1 shooter coming out of high school the year prior. Before Liam McKinley got injured early in the season, he was showing flashes of a top 10 draft pick. He even scored 38 points against Creighton, where he went nuclear in the first and second halves. They kept on with this theme of character, as they call it, when they drafted Zion James, Canipo's teammate at Duke. Zion James is known as a defensive specialist that makes it hard for any guard bringing the ball up the floor as an unguarded defender, and a three-point marksman that took his percentages from 28% at Tulane to 39% as last year's Duke. Last but not least, the 4-time Big East Player of the Year, Ryan Kalkbrenner, is a verticality problem on the college level. The Charlotte Hornets are hoping with the departure of Mark Williams that Ryan Kalkbrenner can develop into a semblance of what he was in college. If he can do this and muster a strong front line of defense when Melo and Brandon Miller are on the court and they're beat to the rack, they're hoping that their defensive numbers can take a jump when it comes to rim defense. The Charlotte Hornets were not just done in the draft with this change in culture. We saw them make a blockbuster trade by the Charlotte Hornets standards for a player of the likes of Colin Sexton when they sent Yusuf Nurkic to Utah and received back from the Utah Jazz 2 second-round draft picks and Colin Sexton. Finally shoring up the backup point guard position and injecting into the Charlotte Hornets lineup attitude, injury, and a young bull they call Sexton. They weren't done there when they went out and they got Spencer Dinwiddie and Matt Connington from the Milwaukee Bucks. The Lithouse has been calling for the last 5 years for respectable NBA players to put alongside LaMelo Ball. Last year, 5 G League players. Yeah, I stuttered when I said it because it's unbelievable. 5 G League players started for the Charlotte Hornets roster. This is unacceptable. It seems like Jeff Peterson and Charles Lee are focused on building an actual NBA roster. Even though we are excited about all the moves that the Charlotte Hornets have made, and we're cautiously optimistic after hearing about the past that Sean told us about earlier, we understand that the food is not finished. And if Charlotte wants to take control of the East and be a real young contender, it's more food on their plate. There are a lot of tradable pieces, and out of respect for some of these players, I'm not going to say their names. But even if you're not going to consider the players that the Charlotte Hornets can actually trade and get some more veteran pieces that can contribute right now to this team, the Charlotte Hornets over the next 2 years, over the next 6 years, have over 14 second-round draft picks. Will Jeff Peterson and ownership decide to stay pat and play it safe? Or is now the time to finally put a team around LaMelo Ball that can help you properly gauge not what could have been, not what would have been, but what should be? Man, hell of a documentary. And I am not a Carolinian. Like I said, I got to say it the right way, because last time I said it, they fire roasted me in the comments of the doc. So I want to make sure I'm respecting the state and respecting the fam, man. But I'm not from Carolina. But I feel like I've been a lifelong Hornets fan. I was one of the ones with the starter jacket, with the hat. You know what I'm saying? With the pumps, the
Yeah.
Reebok pumps, trying to match all
Oh
of that.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I've been
Yeah.
invested on and off for the greater part of my life, man. And especially since, to be honest, LaMelo has gotten back. Really was the year before when Devontae Graham was the most improved player in the NBA. Well, he was the number 4 voted most improved player in the NBA. I've been invested, and there's been so many ups and downs with this team for these last 6 years. And that documentary ends on a note of hope. Let's talk about hope, and let's talk about this weird thing that's going through the NBA where teams are no longer just investing in 3 max stars. They're actually investing in pieces with a couple of stars. And like you said, that word is used loosely. Let's talk about the Charlotte Hornets' recent draft and summer league and free agency. Starting off with Canipo. Canipo, man, what do you see from him? What have you seen from him? And what are your hopes with him fitting in between 2 dynamic pieces like LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller?
For sure, man. First of all, I gotta say, I gotta eat a slice of humble pie when it comes to Khan, because I definitely wrote him off from the jump, bro. I was thinking that he wasn't the pick. I've always had a certain disdain for Duke players in general, because I just not really like how they've panned out in the NBA outside of like maybe Kyrie. Um, but I'll say what I felt about him and what I've seen, man, is not the size of the dog that's in the fight. It's the fight that's in the dog. And he is a ultra competitor. And sometimes that word gets thrown around a little bit too much. But the way that I just saw him in the summer league, man, he's going to open up things a lot with LaMelo and Brandon with the spacing. You know what I'm saying? And he shows that he's ready to knock down a 3. I think both of them have been missing that, because it just seemed like last season, before the injuries and stuff happened, they were the only ones that could cook from behind the 3 arc. You know what I'm saying? And so with Khan being able to hit so many shots, man, have that hustle. I saw him put a few clamps on a few players during the summer league. His fade away. He plays with so much energy, and that's what they're gonna need, because they're gonna run that floor. I know they're gonna be ready this season. So like I said, man, he's a good fit, and I'm actually glad they drafted him so far.
It's a lot of humble pie going around, so I know I'm gonna take me a slice. I was
For sure.
super critical of
Mhm.
Khan, unfairly so, to a
Mhm.
certain extent. I do trust my film study, and some of the things that I've seen on films have translated over to summer league as far as negativity. But what I did
Mhm.
not weigh is exactly what you talked about: the size of heart in this kid's chest. It's unmatched,
Mhm.
man.
For sure.
Even when he was struggling, he didn't stop running, getting up and down the court, getting involved defensively, like I talked about on the video. Hands in the passing lane. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Awareness on defense is at 100 at all times. And when you got a
Mhm.
guy like that on the court, good things are going to happen, because one of the rules of basketball is a game of runs, and
Mhm.
the ball finds energy. And Con
Absolutely.
Canipo provides absolute energy for this team. And it's not like he's just a glorified beat up man. He shoots the
Mhm.
3 in college coming out of Duke, at 41%, like I said in the other video. So it's a
Right.
situation where you're looking at him and you're saying to yourself, just like you said, is he the final pressure release valve to
Mhm.
truly unlock LaMelo and Brandon Miller and the synergy at sometimes that seems off? Is he the
Mhm.
guy that opens up the spacing on the floor for those two guys? Do you feel like he's that guy?
I do feel like he has the potential to be, man. I do feel that way. And I can tell you something else that was refreshing the other night while watching that championship is that he didn't stop. You know, a lot of these guys in the NBA, the way that people watch the game is they build it all on analytics. You know what I mean? They're box scoring and, oh, he hit this many shots, he hit that, but he emptied that clip. And Rev, you know, that's something that we talk about all the time, bro. It wasn't about it always going in. He kept letting it go. And eventually those certain shots start falling when they need them, like that clutch three he had. So I definitely feel like he has the potential to do it, man. And I'm rooting for him.
I want to veer off a little bit before we go to some of the other draft picks.
Okay.
Um, Something that stands out to me is the unorthodox, weird way that the Hornets have chosen to build this team. I think there's some blueprints in the East that have been kind of trending in this way, where now this is becoming the model for young teams. The Indiana Pacers being one. Instead of going to get another star with Tyrese Halliburton, they go and get a guy that is a borderline star, former champion in Pascal Siakam. In Boston, you got the tandem of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. One is a superstar, one is a star. The rest of the guys, before the trades happened this summer, they were just team needs guy. The Hornets made a controversial move bringing in Canipo to begin with, when some like myself said there was better talent available on the board than the Ace Bailey. Can we talk about this weird thing that's going on in Charlotte where they chose to fit to draft need in the lottery versus best player available? Let's talk about that gamble a little bit and what you think about it.
Well, to be honest, I felt like they may have looked at the old regime and some of those draft picks that they had in the past, and thinking that they were going off of, you know, talent versus need like that, and had to make a completely different pick. It's been a while since I think I would have to look at the draft picks throughout the past, but someone who's maybe like a hometown kid, you know what I'm saying? And Khan, not necessarily from North Carolina, but went to Duke. And I felt like that's what they really wanted, is like a hometown guy, someone who could get along, you know what I mean, in the locker room and look at it in a different way. Because like you said, bro, it's that's the way that the NBA seems to be moving now. Like we see certain things with, you know, the way that Phoenix did it, and just, you know what I'm saying, trying to pile stars together on a roster and having a big three, but not really a supporting cast around them, and being able to watch a, you know, Thunder team that doesn't necessarily have all the flashy players, but everybody does their job. You know what I mean? They need to get done. Like, you know, just everybody from Jalen Williams to, like, they locked in on a different path. So I feel like that's what ownership, that's what Charles Lee, that's what Jeff Peterson was looking for with this Khan draft pick.
It didn't just stop at Concanipple. The
Mm.
weird revolutionary style of picking and the way they're building this team. They doubled down on the shooters by taking Liam McNeely at 29. A guy, once again, like I've spoken again time and time about this, he was the number one ranked shooter coming out of high school. 6'7", first two games in Summer League, averaged 19 points a game. I think at 43% from three.
Mhm.
I mean, before they shut him down, just signed a Nike deal. As much credit as we have to give Khan Knipple, he may not turn out being the best draft pick of this class. Can we talk a little bit about Liam McNeely and how him and Khan kind of complement themselves, each other? I'm sorry.
Oh, for sure. I love McNeely's game, man. He definitely plays with heart as well, and he looks I just feel like it was so needed because if I had to look at the stats, not trying to be the analytics guy, but for threes, the Hornets were probably close to last, bro. It was a lot of times where a lot of people just felt like, man, why is LaMelo shooting it like this? And it's like, well, if he passes it to someone else, they may not hit, they may not even get close. So he had to empty the clip out of desperation, not just because he, what I'm saying, wanted to. So I felt like surrounding him with shooters like Khan, like McNeely, I really like where his game can go. We didn't see him those last few summer league games because of the injury, and I get them trying to keep him back and stuff like that. But I'm really interested in seeing how he shakes out in the preseason when he does get some run, man. Because like I say, he was exciting to watch. There's no doubt in my mind he probably would have made the second or first team if he would have played some more games for sure.
It's something to this young core thing in the NBA and surrounding them with veteran pieces. Look what's going on in Orlando with Paulo Banchero, Franz Wagner, keeping Mo Wagner, bringing in Desmond Bain, the Cleveland Cavs, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, and the rest of these guys just being linchpin pieces that are interchangeable that field team needs. I think the Charlotte Hornets are on the brink of something very special. I believe that
Mhm.
summer league win transfers. That championship win, I think it's going to transfer because if you're the older guys like LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, and Miles Bridges, these guys are coming in winners.
Mhm.
These guys are coming in with a standard and an expectation, and you can't afford to get caught lacking. Can we talk a little bit about that summer league championship and what it means to the franchise and the city, and what it could mean for a young guy like Canipo coming in his first year, making an impact already?
Oh man, I feel as though I don't know if you saw the stat earlier, but the analytics for one of the most watched summer league championships of all time. Like they literally had 200 something thousand last year and it went up to 400 something thousand this year. And there's no doubt in my mind, more than half of those fans were repping for the Hornets, bro. There's no doubt in my mind. I think it was so refreshing to see them on a certain stage, albeit summer league, and have something to actually play for and win because we have not even seen the playoffs, the actual playoffs, in 10 plus years. The farthest we've been is, the play in game, but they just went bad and ended up becoming blowouts or whatever and things like that. For someone like Khan, man, to play so hard, to get hit in that head one game, we may have chatted a little bit if they was gonna hold him out, but I felt like he wouldn't be denied. He played bandaged up, headband on, and everything. And so to play so hard and things to get shaky a little bit down that fourth quarter stretch, but for him to still figure it out and make those plays that they needed to win, I feel like it gives them extra motivation headed into training camp and then the preseason to be like, yo, we can do this together. You know what I mean? And I feel like just LaMelo, Brandon, I've been liking seeing them reposting it, shouting those guys out, man, because there needs to be a new type of culture in the Hornets. You know what I mean? We've been reflecting losing for so many years that it has to be something else. So if we can have that level of fight with talent, with motivation, man, I feel like, the sky's the limit because we've been on the ground for a while.
Well, without further ado, man, this is a breakdown of Conker Nipple and some of the things we saw pre-draft and us admitting to being wrong. Check out this new video that we got out on Conker Nipple with me prognosticating and saying I can see a future in the near future where Conker Nipple is the best shooter in the NBA. What's up, YouTube? We back with a whole nother video here in the house of the mighty, mighty lit one. We appreciate all the love and support y'all been sending our way in these recent days, and we've been making some upgrades and getting you the content that you need. Today, we talking about the perfect player. The perfect player that was taken at number 4. Now, look, if you seen my takes on this player on social media, or on YouTube, or on playback, I've been very critical of this player.
Shit, that nigga had me scared, but I held my own.
I was tripping. I was wrong. Canipo is the perfect player for the Charlotte Hornets. And stick around in this video, and I'm going to tell you why he's the perfect connector between Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball. Make sure y'all hit that like button, subscribe. We're going to get into the best NBA content in the game. Run those likes. If you've been watching the content on Playback or the Spaces on Twitter, the best NBA community in social media right now, which is the Lit House. If you haven't been listening in on Spaces and you haven't been watching in on the Playback, you're tripping. That's on you. It's the best NBA play-by-play, post-game analysis from us, the people, that you can get in the game. But if you have been listening to it, you know that I've been highly critical of the Charlotte Hornets for taking number 4 overall pick out of Duke, Canipo. Now look, let me explain myself. Before you rush to judgment, I'm looking at it on draft night in the historical sense of what the NBA has always been known for, which is in the lottery, you take the best talent available. And to me, in my humble estimation, there were guys available for the Charlotte Hornets at that number 4 pick that to me just were overall better athletes and better overall players, which is yet to be seen, than Canipo. You had Ace Bailey there. You had Trey Johnson, Jeremiah Fears, guys that I feel as though could add instant pop into that Hornets offense, especially dealing with a team like the Hornets that is often dealing with injuries to their star players, LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. I just thought that Ace Bailey and Trey Johnson, if one of those guys went down, could step up into a star role for this team and carry it if need be. Luckily for the Charlotte Hornets fans, they didn't listen to me. The front office, led by Jeff Peterson and head coach Charles Lee as head coach, they decided to not listen to the old law of the NBA by taking the best take available. They decided to draft for need. Now look, we've seen in the past this blow up on a lot of teams that refuse to just take the best player available on the board at that time in the lottery and choose to go towards need. It hasn't always been pretty results, even in Charlotte. Do y'all remember Adam Morrison? Exactly. But in this situation, I'm going to tell you why I think the Charlotte Hornets are absolutely right with this pick after watching Canipo during this summer league. Look, man, Canipo is the perfect connector. He's like an extension cord that connects all the power cords in the room, and he makes them work. In LaMelo Ball, you have a fantastic, saucy, innovative 6'7" guard with an offensive bag as deep as Santa Claus on Christmas Eve. In Brandon Miller, you have a 6'9" shooting guard / small forward that is somewhat limited with the ball in his hands off the dribble, but is a three-point marksman and an athletic demon downhill. When you have two guys like this, that the offense, or the defense, I should say, can take time to make sure that those guys are taken out of the game by running bracket coverage, throwing extra bodies at them like we saw last year at times, especially if one of those guys are injured. You need a guy that is a pressure release valve that can hit big shots, make the right play, and shoot the three at a high percentage. And what better name early in the first round, as the mock draft stated, than Canipo? Canipo's first game in the NBA Summer League left a lot to be desired. He made people like me and other people like the scout from the Utah Jazz that you see here, who actually had Canipo rated behind Liam McNeely. He made people like us feel like we were solidified in our takes. That was on me. I jumped the gun. I know a lot of times YouTubers don't want to say when they're wrong because they're worried about their reputation, and a lot of people in NBA spaces, period. But I'll be the first to say, that first game that we saw from Canipo in Summer League, it was more of an outlier, not a trend. I think he was suffering from nerves and suffering from the fact that the speed of the game and the athleticism of the game had sped up versus what he had faced in college. He took a game off for injury. By the time he came back for game 3 against the Dallas Mavericks in NBA Summer League, he was a new man. A lot of the same athletic limitations that I saw on film and we saw at the combine, they still reared their head. But what also reared his head is the IQ that Canipo was not only born with, but developed being the son of 2 former college basketball players. Canipo showed an ability in this game not only to weather the rough storm of the first game and a half, but also an ability, even when struggling with his shot, to compete on both ends of the floor. Time after time in that first half of that Dallas Mavericks game, we saw Canipo compete on the defensive end. Even though his athletic measurements would say that he probably would not be an elite defender, because of his IQ and his effort and his willingness not to quit, he's always in the right place. And he's always got his arms and hands in passing lanes, which leads to deflected passes and steals with the ball going the other way. If you're not an elite defender in the NBA, on-ball defender in the NBA, what you at least want to be is a good to great help defender. Because if you struggle in one-on-one coverage, if they're able to put you in a zone or put you in the backside of that man and screen you off where you switch off, you can always be effective if you stay active, if you stay alert, and you're willing to try to play defense. Canipo showed us that in Game 2 of his NBA Summer League appearances. Not only that, in the second half, Canipo went from a guy that looked like he couldn't hit the side of a barn with a cannonball to a guy that could hit a field mouse from 5,000 yards out with a deer hunting rifle. He started hitting shot after shot after shot, and that form that everyone raved about coming out of Duke, it started to show his presence in this game. Canipo not only showed us what his shooting percentage was in college, which was 41%, that it could travel to the NBA. He also showed us an ability to pass the ball and handle the ball in traffic, something that detractors like myself were concerned about heading into this NBA season with the Charlotte Hornets. This game was not an outlier. He doubled down against the Spurs, and later on in the semifinals of the playoffs, the first playoff appearance that the Charlotte Hornets will be in and have been in their entire existence for NBA Summer League. Speaking of that, if you would like to watch that game, that will be available tonight on our playback. So make sure you pull up, not just tonight, but throughout the regular season. Me and DKM will be playing volleyball on playback, watching all of the Charlotte Hornets games and a lot of NBA action live as we're partnered with Playback. So make sure you get over to Playback right now and follow the channels and shoot us a note so we can send you a VIP pass so you can watch along with no copyright infringements and watch some of the best analysis and NBA action in the game. Back to Canipo. Canipo continued his trend that we saw against the Dallas Mavericks, against the Spurs, and against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, if you look at his shooting percentages during the Summer League, 33% from 3 and 41% from the field, that doesn't tell the whole story. He got off to a real rocky start at the beginning of Summer League, as I talked about earlier. Now that he's settled in, we're starting to see him shoot percentages like 44% from the floor and 41% from 3 that looks very identical to what he did in college. After seeing everything that he provides as far as highlight reel passing, heady defense, elite shooting, and an ability and a want-to with a high motor to never quit, why do I say he's the perfect connector for LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller? When you put these guys on the court and defenses decide they're going to take one of them away, a lot of times last year, the Charlotte Hornets did not have an answer to respond to bracket coverage being ran on LaMelo and making Brandon Miller put the ball on the floor. Now with a guy like Canipo, it opens up the option, just like we're seeing in Summer League, to run flare screens, to run elevator screens, to run some 77 sets with LaMelo or Brandon Miller, hide Canipo in the corner. And as we've seen in this Summer League, he has an ability to knock down that short corner three at a marksman's level. To me, Canipo is going to open up the offense in ways that LaMelo Ball and the Charlotte Hornets have not seen in the last 6 years. Canipo, without a doubt, will be the most elite shooter in my estimation that LaMelo Ball has ever played with. That's right, I know Seth Curry played on this team. But my ceiling for shooting for Canipo versus Seth Curry, being as though Seth Curry is a finished product and Canipo is just starting out his NBA journey, to me, no disrespect to Seth, but at 6'6", I'll take the 6'6" marksman out of Duke, not the other kid from Duke. No disrespect. With that being said, I say to myself, is Con the most elite shooter that LaMelo will ever play with? Because remember, the Hornets doubled down on what was once the #1 rated shooter coming out of high school, Liam McNeely, who has been recently rated as the 3rd best NBA prospect that is shown at NBA Summer League. Because of tendonitis, Liam McNeely has had to been shut down from Summer League, which has allowed Canipo a bigger opportunity to shine. Charlotte Hornets fans, look, I've had some great takes here on this channel, but I've also had some bad ones. I'm here to tell you that Canipo, if coached right and put in the right position, may be the piece that the Charlotte Hornets need this year to help them go from perennial lottery ticket to potential play-in, or did I say playoffs? Make sure y'all run these likes up and tell me what you think down there in the comment section below. We love talking about the NBA. We love talking about the Charlotte Hornets. We love giving you the content that you need. We appreciate you all for rocking with us. Let us know what y'all think about Canipo. Was he the right pick at #4? And is he the perfect connector between LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller? Make sure you share this video, like this video, and subscribe to the channel. You're in the house of the mighty. Coming up in 25, 26 was all but over. But it's a guy that I have been having my eye on since 2024 out of Kansas, by way of Melbourne, Australia, that I feel like can make up for a lot of margins in a lot of areas for the Indiana Pacers. This continues the theme of this episode of the NBA Litcast, where this weird roster formation, positionless basketball, and innovative style all clashes. That name that I'm talking about is Johnny Furvy. Now look, when you look at Johnny Furvy and the position that he played in college, some of the times that he's played in Indiana, you would consider him a wing. But the more I watch him and I really study his film and what I see in Summer League, I see a guy that could potentially be a difference maker as a on-ball, penetrating, scoring threat for the Indiana Pacers. I mean, look what Tyrese Halliburton provides for the Pacers. He's the engine of the offense. He's a consistent shooter from three. He is, for all intents and purposes, the leader of the team. But there are some areas, if you're being fair, that you want Tyrese to be more effective in. You remember those up and down nights when it came to scoring, those up and down nights when it came to consistency beyond the arc and putting pressure on the defense that was showing itself throughout the regular season, but really reared his head in the playoffs and the finals. I'm not saying that Johnny Furvy is a better player than Tyrese Halliburton, but if you look at it from the athletic measurements perspective and the overall potential, I think you might be disregarding a rock if you don't give him a chance, and inside of that rock, it may be a diamond. I think in a year where teams are going to be trying to stop what the Pacers do, which is the fastest offense in the league with a scrappy defense that wants to turn you over to convert defense into offense, I think for a guy like Rick Carlisle, I think this is the year to throw a perfect curveball at the rest of the league by inserting an injection of talent that I don't think you could really prepare for with nothing on film, which is Johnny Furvy. His performances in Summer League, to me, would really not only give him an automatic leg up into a roster rotation battle on the depth chart there in Indiana, but I wouldn't be surprised if other teams weren't interested in the services of Johnny Furvy. Who doesn't want a 6'8" wing with a 40-inch vertical that can handle the ball and shoot the three at over 40%? Who doesn't need that? In this video, I'm about to talk about Johnny Furvy and his potential impact on the Yes Sir Pacers. If you like this video and you've loved this episode of the NBA Litcast, please subscribe now. This show comes on weekly, and we want to keep our viewers engaged. We know so many people desire conscientious, intelligent NBA basketball conversations with a hint of culture and spice. So please make us your location and your destination every Thursday night for NBA Litcast. Make sure y'all share the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and check out this Johnny Furvy content. Where you're going, you got to remember where you came from. The Indiana Pacers were leading in a Game 7 in OKC with their best player, Tyrese Halliburton, 3 or 4 from the floor at the time, with 9 points, hotter than a jalapeno pepper on a Sunday night in Alabama. You better believe it. At this moment, tragedy happens. After they had sucked all the energy out of the building from the excited OKC fans, another small market team that had built through the draft and built organically and was looking for their first championship, after they snatched all the energy out of the building with the way the Pacers started, tragedy struck. Tyrese Halliburton blew out his Achilles. At that moment, the hopes and dreams of Yes Sir Nation, aka Pacers Nation, they waned on the Achilles of Tyrese Halliburton, kind of like the Trojans and Achilles. It is what it is. I hate to be the bearer of that metaphor, but today I'm not here to talk about what was or what could have been. As always, on this channel, we talk basketball. So let's talk about what could be. A lot of NBA prognosticators and analysts, they seem to think that the Indiana Pacers are going to just camp this one in this season. It's already been announced by the team's president of operations that Tyrese Halliburton, because of the injury he sustained to his Achilles, would not be playing this year. That puts a lot of people in the mind that the Indiana Pacers are not going to try to compete this year, and they might chase a lottery pick. Also, with the departure of Miles Turner, the anchor on the backside of that defense, and the longest tenured Indiana Pacers player who was snatched away by the Milwaukee Bucks, it only adds to the chorus of growing voices from NBA scouts and NBA analysts that think that the Indiana Pacers may be on their way to lottery town. I'm here to tell you today why I don't think that's necessarily the case. And I think they got some hidden gems on this roster, one in particular, that if given the opportunity and given the right timing, just like in Summer League, I think he can take the NBA by storm. We're talking Johnny Furvy. That's right, Johnny Furvy. But before we get into that, we got great NBA content all up and down the channel. Please go check out our latest release when we're talking about the Charlotte Hornets and it's time running out for LaMelo Ball. Will they get their stuff together? Or will this be the year that LaMelo gets traded at the deadline? Please check that former video out and several other former videos from the channel. Also, before we go any further in our Furvy discussion, no pun intended, y'all make sure y'all hit that like button. Share the video, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. And think about becoming a member. During the season, we do live streams, partners with Playback and NBA League Pass. So come on over, become a channel member, and join us on Playback so you can be a part of the best game watch parties in the league. Let's talk more about Johnny Furvy. Johnny Furvy, Melbourne, Australia, 6'7.5". We'll round that off to 6'8" and some change. It's the NBA. Who's counting? When he came out of Kansas, a lot of scouts had Johnny Furvy pegged as a wing that was a good spot-up shooter and an opportunistic guy in the open court. A lot of teams were disenfranchised with what they saw on the college level after he got off to a hot start. In the middle of his only season at Kansas, he hit a lull in the middle of the season. Because of this, instead of Furvy being what I think in the 2024 draft should have been a top 5 pick, he fell later into the lottery because of these concerns about consistency from NBA scouts. I'm one of the ones that never shared that concern. I'm one of the ones that believes that if Furvy is given the opportunity, we could be looking at one of the better guard/wings when it comes to up-and-coming 25 and under players in this league. Now, after being drafted by the Indiana Pacers and showing promise in his rookie season in certain stretches, Johnny Furvy should have an opportunity with Tyrese Halliburton out to play in that positionless basketball system, high running up and down the court, fast pace, yes sir, Indiana Pacers offense, and should be given an opportunity to shine. If you read those scouting reports pre-draft and you're judging Johnny Furvy based off of that, you got another thing coming. Johnny Furvy is a guy that can get up and down the court. He was told to us to be a guy that was just a spot-up shooter in college. But the more you look at him during this 2025 NBA Summer League, he's showing he's got sauce and drip in his bag and a lot of chopsticks as well. Meaning, he can handle the ball, he can do the tweens behind the back, and he come with 2 straps. We saw him make highlight after highlight in the game the other day against the Chicago Bulls, which is one of the better and more talented teams that is being fielded in this Summer League. Johnny Furvy, for me, when I watch him this Summer League, I see a guy that's a lot more athletic, a lot more agile, and a lot more talented than scouts gave him credit for. And I started to think to myself, if I was Rick Carlisle, who was already a coaching genius with a finals appearance as an assistant in Dallas and an NBA championship, and now a final appearance with the Indiana Pacers, I would be thinking to myself, what is something that is a wild card that other teams are not preparing for that can help us stop the bleeding when it comes to leaving our all-NBA point guard? I think that answer is already on the roster. When you look at some of the flashes that Furvy has shown throughout the NBA Summer League and what he showed in his rookie year and his athleticism and the speed and the tempo and the veracity that he plays the game with. Just look at this clip right here of him dunking and making this poor soul from Germany, who's just a rookie trying to make his way, poor unfortunate soul, get hit with one of the ugliest posters the NBA has ever seen in Summer League, in Street Ball League, in All-Star games. This is one of the ugliest posters we've ever seen. It looked like that man snatched that man's soul out of his body like Scorpion. Get over here. Bro, this is what Johnny Furvy can inject into this Indiana Pacers offense. I would not be surprised if this year Rick Carlisle decides to play a more positionless style of basketball where the leading wings on the team, they take turns handling the basketball. Now look, I'm not under any delusion. With players like Ben Mathurin and Nembhard and Naismith still there, it's gonna be hard for Furvy to carve out a role. But I want you to think about it like this. Who was Josh Giddey when he was in OKC? Is P. Giddey, no pun intended, the same player in Chicago that he was in OKC? When given an opportunity to play faster with the ball in his hands and show what he can do, Josh Giddey is on the verge of getting a $200 million rookie extension. Could you imagine a guy that's just as tall as Josh Giddey? Similar vision, not as good as a passer, but more athletic, better shooter, and what I think an overall better scorer and a better player with a higher ceiling, potentially running this Indiana offense in this down year where Tyrese Halliburton is out. It gives you something to think about. I think Rick Carlisle being the genius that he is, and that wonderful coaching staff that they have in the Pacers Nation, I think we might see a good chance after the summer league performance that we're seeing from Furvy, that he might end up being a guy that needs to be taken serious. So is he the guy that's gonna save the Indiana Pacers season? That's yet to be seen. But I want fans to know, when they complain about the lack of moves the Pacers made or letting Miles Turner go, they might know something that you didn't know. And you may not have to look any further than Johnny Furvy. I appreciate y'all for pulling up. Y'all make sure y'all share this video, like the video, subscribe to the channel. The best content in all the land for NBA basketball. This is the Lit House.